Have you ever wondered why some men shy away when you approach them, while others seem to be drawn to you almost magnetically? There's something deep and silent in the emotional world of relationships that many fail to grasp. Attraction isn't based solely on what you show the world, but on what you carry within, something that's often unknown even to you. Some women know this instinctively. They understand that their power lies not in being desired, but in being authentic, in living without hiding their shadows and without bowing to anyone's expectations. They've grasped a secret that liberates them. This secret isn't found in the relentless pursuit of approval. It's in the acceptance and power of their own truth. But what, after all, is it that attracts? What is this invisible power that makes a man can't stop thinking about you? It's not the search for external validation, but the deep self-knowledge and freedom that arises when you stop hiding, when you stop losing yourself in a role. The truth lies in who you are inside, in what's hidden in your shadows. This power, my dear, comes from within. You don't need to please anyone. You need to know yourself, integrate all parts of yourself, and become whole. When you realize this, everything around you begins to change. Not because you do something to attract attention, but because you become a presence impossible to ignore. This is the profound mystery that few women discover, but which transforms every aspect of their lives. The path to this is not easy. It requires you to look within, confront your shadows, and accept who you are without fear. The shadow, the hidden side of our psyche, is where our greatest fears and also our greatest strengths reside. By integrating your shadow, you become more complete and consequently more powerful. Many women spend their lives trying to hide who they truly are, fearing that their shadows will alienate them from others. But what they don't know is that true connection, true attraction, only happens when you show your authentic self. When you allow yourself to be imperfect, you become irresistible, not because you're better, but because your soul truly shines. The shadow is the mirror of our soul, reflecting everything we reject, everything we hide, everything we don't want to see. And this can be terrifying. What do you feel when you think about your fears, your insecurities, your flaws? What do you do with them? Do you push them to the back of your consciousness or accept them as part of who you are? Carl Jung, when speaking about the shadow, said that we can only achieve complete self-knowledge when we integrate what we deny ourselves. He invited us to accept our darkest parts, not as weaknesses, but as untapped strengths. Because yes, your shadow is not something to be feared. It is the key to understanding who you truly are. And what does this have to do with attraction? Everything. A man is not attracted to a woman who pretends to be something she is not. He instinctively senses a chasm between what she shows and who she truly is. But when you allow your true essence to reveal itself, with all its vulnerabilities and imperfections, he can't help but draw closer. He feels a pure and real energy, an energy that isn't forced, but overflows naturally. The woman who faces her shadow, who understands her fears and accepts them, has an irresistible presence. She doesn't need validation because she's already validated herself. She knows who she is and therefore isn't looking for confirmation in every look. She already has everything she needs within herself. And this power is what transforms every moment, every gesture, every word. By confronting your shadows, you become more than a beautiful or desirable woman. You become a complete woman. And it is this completeness that in a mysterious way attracts. A woman who knows herself is not just attractive, she is uncontrollably magnetic. Now you might be wondering, but what happens when we stray from our true essence? What happens when we project our expectations, fears, and insecurities onto someone else? The ego, that instinct that makes us seek approval and recognition from others, is the source of many of our frustrations in relationships. The ego drives us to seek perfection in others. When we project our expectations onto a man, we are placing an enormous burden on him, expecting him to fill a void that can't be filled by anyone else. We are expecting him to be the answer to our fears, our longings, and our expectations, but deep down, we are simply ignoring what we really need, ourselves. Jung said that the ego is a trap because it separates us from our true essence. It convinces us that we need the outside world to feel complete, that we need the approval of others to validate us, but true validation comes from within. When a woman lives in the shadow of her ego, she loses control over her emotional life and becomes hostage to the opinions of others. This alienates others from herself, and she loses herself in the pursuit of perfection. What happens when you let go of your ego? When you stop projecting your insecurities onto others and start looking at yourself honestly, you free yourself, and in doing so, your presence becomes even more powerful. When you don't need a man to validate you, you become irresistible, because ultimately, a man doesn't fall in love with a woman who hides behind masks. He falls in love with a woman who is real, who isn't afraid to show who she is, who isn't afraid to show her vulnerability. He doesn't fall in love with a woman who seeks approval, but with a woman who has already validated herself. Individuation, as Jung describes it, is the process of becoming whole. It's when you stop seeking outside what can only be found within. And that is powerful. When you begin to know yourself, when you begin to integrate all aspects of your psyche, you become whole. And that's what makes your energy irresistible. It's not because you strive for perfection, but because you embrace your imperfections. The woman who seeks individuation isn't the one who strives to be perfect. She's the woman who strives to be true. She's the woman who knows that every flaw, every fear, every weakness is an opportunity to grow and become stronger. Individuation doesn't mean letting go of who you are, but embracing who you are, with all your shadows and lights. When you begin to become whole, you no longer need validation from anyone. You don't need a man to feel complete. You become your own source of energy, and mysteriously, men begin to approach you not because you're searching for them, but because your energy is pure and magnetic. This woman, the one who knows herself deeply, the one who understands her shadow and her light, doesn't need to chase anyone. She chooses, and it's this choice that's powerful. She doesn't depend on others to feel validated because she already validates herself. She already knows herself. And when you reach this state, you understand that you no longer need to seek love because love is already within you. Now, you know what it takes to find your true power, self-knowledge, and the integration of your shadow. But how do you live this in your daily life? How do you apply this emotional freedom without getting lost in external expectations? The answer lies in Stoic wisdom. Stoic philosophy teaches us that we must live according to our own truth, without letting ourselves be dominated by external circumstances. It's not about controlling others, but about controlling ourselves, our reactions, our emotions, our perception of reality. When a woman begins to apply this wisdom, she no longer despairs for validation. She understands that true peace comes from within, from accepting who she is, without trying to change what is beyond her control. The Stoic woman does not seek the approval of a man or anyone else. She already validates herself. She already knows herself. She is the master of her own life. This does not mean she is cold or distant. On the contrary, she is whole. She is strong, but also compassionate. She doesn't let herself be swayed by external emotions because she knows her happiness comes from within. When you adopt this philosophy, you stop chasing. You start choosing. You choose what you want, who you want, and how you want to live. And this choice is what makes you unbeatable. A woman who knows herself deeply is one who doesn't depend on anyone's approval, but chooses to live with wisdom and dignity. Now is the time for liberation. You've already understood that true feminine power isn't in the constant search for validation. It's not in trying to please everyone or hiding behind masks. Feminine power lies in your authenticity, in your truth. When you allow yourself to be who you truly are, With all your qualities and imperfections, you become an unstoppable woman. You don't need anyone to complete your life. You are already whole. The woman who knows herself, who embraces her shadows, is an unstoppable force. She doesn't depend on anyone to be happy. She chooses, and in choosing, she frees herself, and that's what makes her so attractive. Not because she seeks to please, but because she is true. When you free yourself from the search for approval, you become free to live your life the way you choose. You don't chase anyone, because you know that whoever truly belongs in your life will be attracted to who you are, not who you try to be. A woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses. And this choice is what makes her truly powerful. Now, imagine you've reached a point where you've stopped seeking validation and started choosing. What does this do to the men around you? They, who previously withdrew or sought something superficial, begin to notice something different in you. It's not something you do, it's something you are. The energy that emanates from a woman who knows herself and chooses her own life is like an intense light, one that cannot be ignored. The choice you make every day to love yourself, to respect yourself, and to stay true to your truth begins to shape not only your own experience, but also the dynamics around you. Men in particular sense this. They begin to realize that you are no longer at their disposal, you are at your disposal. And this creates a fascinating paradox. The more you dedicate yourself to yourself, the more others desire to be around you. They sense your authenticity and your strength, and in a mysterious way, they are drawn to your freedom. This freedom is your greatest achievement. It's not the freedom to be alone, but the freedom to be exactly who you are, without needing approval or validation. When you take control of your life, relationships, instead of becoming sources of insecurity, become spaces of genuine and loving exchange. The man who enters this space isn't there to fill a void in you. He's there because he sees himself reflected in your strength. He wants to be a part of your life, but without stealing your freedom. And if he doesn't understand this, he'll walk away, because men are afraid of women who don't need them. One of the biggest emotional traps women fall into is the fear of rejection. This fear infiltrates every decision, every word, every gesture. The woman who seeks to please at all costs, who tries to be who others want her to be, lives in constant tension. She is no longer herself. She is a version designed to please. But when you begin to truly know yourself, this fear begins to disappear. Not because you're no longer afraid, but because you understand that rejection isn't a reflection of your worth, but of your compatibility with another person. A woman who integrates her shadow and acknowledges her own wounds becomes immune to the fear of rejection. She understands that rejection isn't a loss, but a natural choice of the universe. If someone can't see you for who you truly are, they have no place in your life. And you, who know yourself deeply, begin to realize that this kind of rejection is a gift. It's the opportunity to free up space for someone who will truly be compatible with who you are. By transcending this fear, you free yourself from a cycle of self-sabotage. And so, when someone rejects you, you don't become destabilized. You accept the experience as part of the individuation process. You don't wait for others to fill your void. You welcome them with love, but without attachment. When you free yourself from the need to be loved at all costs, you become irresistible. True freedom comes from the ability to love yourself without waiting for others to love you first. Finally, when you reach the point of knowing yourself deeply, of integrating all parts of your psyche, you begin to live authentically. A woman who lives this way isn't concerned with what others think of her. She knows her life is her own, and no one else can write her story. She chooses, and her choice comes from the certainty that she deserves to live a life that is true to who she truly is. This is true empowerment, the ability to choose and remain true to yourself, regardless of external circumstances. When you don't lose yourself in others' expectations, when you don't seek to please or fill a void, you become an irresistible force. And in doing so, you allow others to approach you, but without losing your power. You maintain control of your life, your energy, and your destiny. Feminine power doesn't come from submission, nor from trying to control others. It comes from the ability to free yourself from the search for validation and to live according to your own heart. The woman who knows her worth, who doesn't submit to others' expectations, is an invincible woman. And when she chooses with unshakable confidence, because she knows that in the end, the only love that truly matters is the one she has for herself. The woman who chooses is the woman who transcends fear, insecurity, and the desire to please. She doesn't chase, she chooses. And by choosing, she creates the life she always deserved to live, because she is already everything she needs to be. She is complete. The woman who knows her worth doesn't chase, she chooses. Have you ever felt the weight of an unspoken word? That sensation that settles between silence and desire, like a diamond buried in the dark earth, waiting to be discovered? What would happen if you looked within yourself and saw not a lost woman, but a hidden force, the true essence that has always been there, silent yet alive? Sometimes the greatest secrets are revealed not in cries or promises, but in subtle gestures, in the stillness that occurs between heartbeats. What if you had always been the author of your own story, but only now are you beginning to understand? The words that make up that narrative, every glance in your direction, every subtle movement of your body, the way your silence fills the empty spaces. None of this was ever a coincidence. What you call coincidence is just a code you haven't yet learned to read. The world around you dances with your energy without you needing to ask, as if the universe itself finally recognized the woman you have become. What once seemed uncertain now resonates with painful clarity. You are what you've always sought, the answer you've been waiting for in every encounter and farewell, and now you feel the echo of it, like a flame burning silently. The chessboard before you was never just a game. Every move you made, every choice, every path you took was an irreversible move marked by the touch of destiny, self-knowledge, and individuation. When you allowed yourself to fall into the shadows instead of fearing them, you discovered that every piece, every mistake and success was part of a plan that belonged to no one but yours. The pieces move, and with them you, unshakable. Now, it's as if the entire board has been redrawn, not by external hands, but by your own will. The game was never meant to be won, but to be understood. What if the truth which you tirelessly seek was always there, hidden between the lines of your own actions, in those moments you rejected as too small to be noticed? What if what you've always sought outside yourself was merely a reflection of what was already within, waiting for you to see it without fear? What happens when you look within and find, not insecurity, but the vastness of a whole woman? What do you feel when you understand there's no need to search anymore, because everything you need is already within you? Now your perception is clear, but what does that mean? How will the next steps unfold? What will you do with this strength? Now that you've realized its presence, the choice is yours, but it's not just any choice. You already know there's no turning back, not because the path has been laid out, but because you chose it with every breath, with every silence you allowed. The path doesn't need to be drawn by other people's hands. It emerges as you walk, and the steps you take now reverberate throughout the universe, not as an empty echo, but as a living truth. The woman who knows her strength never needs to chase. She chooses, and the simple act of choosing is more than a decision. It's the manifestation of your soul, the affirmation that the journey is not a destination, but a continuous process of discovery. Each day is an opportunity to deepen your self-knowledge, to integrate your shadows and your lights in a perfect dance. You no longer need to ask permission to live your truth. Your freedom is your greatest achievement, And what will you do now with all that you have awakened within you? The path unfolds before you, and it is no longer a choice but an inevitability. You've already taken the first step, and there is no turning back. Whatever comes next, you now know that the true choice is yours, and the power you carry cannot be ignored. When you free yourself, the world around you frees itself too. If you feel that this journey has resonated with something deep within you, if something within your soul has awakened, then the next step is simple. It's not an instruction, but a natural choice. Let yourself go. Follow the path you've chosen without fear, without hesitation, because now you are the woman who knows her worth, and the only thing left to do is live with the freedom that has always been waiting for you. Share this energy with others. Share it with the world, because what is yours is not lost when it is divided.